What's up everyone, I'm Becca and welcome to my channel. Miraidon is one of the strongest restricteds in the Regulation G format. It won the World Championship in 2024, and in the format's return, it won the first regional of 2025. I decided to take a crack at Miraidon Gaming, however, my inspiration did not come from the championship teams. I really liked the team that Riley Factor brought to Worlds 2024, especially because it featured one of my favorite Pokemon, Iron Crown. I wanted to recreate this team to better suit my playstyle. In today's video, I'll show you the variations that I tried, and we'll do some analysis of gameplay. This will give you some insight into why I made certain changes. If you like this type of video, be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more VGC content. Now, let's get into it. Let's take a look at the original 6. We have the most common item on Miraidon being Choice Specs, Terapagos to be immune to Fake Out. We also have Whimsicott Terapagos to be immune to Fake Out, likely because it's Focus Sash. This right here is what sold me on the team. Terra Ground Iron Crown. And we have Terra Ground so that we can safely click Discharge next to it and not worry about taking any damage. Rapid Strike Urshifu with the defensive Terra of Grass. Regular Ursaluna, likely to help out with those Shadow Calyrex matchups, and Incineroar. This is the first variation that I tried. I'm obsessed with hyper offense, so I changed the Terra on Miraidon to be electric to boost the damage output from those electric type moves. I also swapped Urshifu for Farigiraf. This way I have Armor Tail to block any fake outs. I also felt like Farigiraf might be a little bit more helpful in those Trick Room matchups. I've used Blood Moon Ursaluna before, but I don't have that much experience using regular Ursaluna, so it was a little bit hard for me to adjust to, and I always felt like even though he can act in Trick Room, he just wasn't slow enough to compete with Ice Calyrexes and Amoonguss. I felt like this team had good special offense, but not so much physical offense, because I was struggling so much with regular Ursaluna. I began to feel like I wanted Urshifu back on this team, but I wanted a way to boost his damage output even more. Although Whimsicott is a great Tailwind setter, I felt like I vibed more with Tornadus. And if I was going to bring back Urshifu, Tornadus just felt like a natural complement. In the second variation I tried, I changed Miraidon's Terra to Fairy. This just gave a better overall coverage, and it was a good defensive Terra option. I swapped Whimsicott for Tornadus and I brought Urshifu back. Tornadus is just a very powerful offensive duo. They pair well together. Still wasn't all the way convinced of Ursaluna. Yeah, it can act in Trick Room, but it's naturally weak to Calyrex Ice, which gave me a ton of trouble. This final team felt like everything that I needed. Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam option on Miraidon, good offensive coverage, and a good defensive Terra. Psychic Noise on Iron Crown was good for stopping those leftover Terapagos that like to set up with Calm Mind. Urshifu being Terra Stellar to boost the damage of all of his moves. Incineroar giving me Fake Out Pressure and Intimidate to lower foes' attack stat. Tornadus, like I said, naturally pairing well with Urshifu and being my Tailwind option. I feel like the fourth move slot is kind of up for grabs. I do like Scary Face into Shadow Calyrexes to lower their speed so that I can outspeed them. And Farigiraf being a natural counter into Shadow Calyrex as it's immune to Astral Barrage. And with its ability Armor Tail, blocking priority fake outs and Grassy Glides into my Urshifu, maybe. I played with these teams on 3 different occasions, and each time I made adjustments according to my playstyle and what I felt like the team was lacking. Now, let's take a look at the progression of change through some gameplay. The first game that we're going to take a look at is this battle against a Zamazenta team. The one thing that I was happy to not worry about was a competing terrain. Immediately upon seeing their lead, I knew they were going to go for Fake Out, right? So I wasn't sure exactly which slot they would go Fake Out into. I assumed it would be the Miraidon, so I was okay with protecting my Whimsicott so I don't sacrifice my Sash and swapping immediately into Incineroar. Incineroar is going to be able to take this Moonblast nicely as he's Assault Vested. So they did go for the Fake Out into the Whimsicott. I'm really glad I protected here so I don't have to worry about jeopardizing my Focus Sash. Incineroar took that Moonblast comfortably. One thing I forgot was you cannot Encore Dark types when you are a Prankster Pokemon, so that was a misplay on my part. Thankfully, I didn't suffer too much this turn as Incineroar was able to survive and get off a Flare Blitz into their Flutter Mane. And unfortunately, it survived on an imaginary sash, but it's fine. At this point, I felt comfortable bringing Miraidon back into the game, so I just set up Tailwind and I Terra'd Electric for maximum damage on Electro Drift. The Terra into the Flutter Mane didn't matter all that much as it was already on 1 HP, but I wanted to get the Terra out of the way just in case for some reason the Flutter Mane would still outspeed my Miraidon. I was really happy that he clicked Knockoff into my Miraidon so that I'm not choice locked into a move anymore. Since I wasn't choice locked into a move anymore, I felt comfortable clicking Protect on my Whimsicott and Discharge so that I could go for some spread damage on both of the opposing Pokemon. I also went for Discharge in the event that they clicked Follow Me. I wanted to make sure that I was getting some damage off on the Incineroar. I guess my opponent thought that their Incineroar was bulkier than what it was. They just went for Helping Hand and tried to attack me, but I just doubled into the Incin slot, thinking that they would click Follow Me. That Incineroar was probably Assault Vested, and with Friend Guard, that's why it took so much damage to take him out. At this point, I was just double checking everybody's typing to make sure I was clicking the most effective moves possible in this turn, so I just doubled into the Zamazenta thinking that they would click Follow Me and just try to attack. I double into the Zamazenta, bringing it into the orange, and they go for Heavy Slam into my Whimsicott, which is totally fine. At this point, my Tailwind is finished, and I'm not sure if Zamazenta is faster than my Miraidon, so that's why I opted to switch it out. I was okay with losing my Whimsicott this turn because when I bring out Miraidon and activate the Electric Terrain again, I'm going to get a speed boost on my Iron Crown, so I know for certain it's going to outspeed Zamazenta. I like that my Iron Crown is faster than Miraidon. I say this because imagine the Clefairy was at a higher HP, Tachyon Cutter going first would have definitely guaranteed me the KO so that I can ensure that Miraidon attack is going into Zamazenta. Overall for this game, I'm pretty satisfied with my gameplay. The only thing that really upset me was clicking Encore into Incineroar that second turn. In this next battle, I'm going up against a Calyrex Ice. Calyrex Ice is the one restricted that I constantly struggle against. And this is one of those games that I played my best, believe it or not. Turn 1, I anticipated them going for Follow Me Trick Room, so I just went on the straight offensive. I locked into Volt Switch and Tachyon Cutter. My opponent just double protected, likely scouting out for what my Miraidon was going to lock into. I had seen Terra Ground Clefairy before, and I kinda anticipated that they would click Follow Me and Terra Ground, so I just hard swapped my Miraidon into Incineroar. Lo and behold, the bots be botting, and it was a Terra Ground Clefairy, like your girl anticipated. They go for the Follow Me, and I get off a Tachyon Cutter. Instead of going for Trick Room right away, they just click Glacial Lance. And I was okay with going on the offensive. I just clicked Flare Blitz into the Calyrex and Tachyon Cutter into the Clefairy, and they decided to double protect again. After that turn, I'm double checking their team to see what they could possibly have in the back. I had a feeling that if they had Rapid Strike Urshifu in the back, Flare Blitz wouldn't KO, but I was willing to go for it. They lock in to Follow Me, and I take it out with Iron Crown's move. And I'm able to get a Flare Blitz off into the Calyrex. I decided to just continue being on the offensive, and they Thunderclap by Incin. Thankfully, I survived so that I'm able to get on some attack this turn. Get rid of the Calyrex, but my Incineroar is gonna go down to the Flare Blitz recoil, and we're both down to our last two Pokemon. They reveal that Ogerpon is their final Pokemon, and I know that Sturdy is gonna be annoying here. Terra was still on the table for me, so I was wondering if I Terra Fairy, I survive an Earthquake from my Ursaluna. 100% the correct play here is Terra Fairy, Dazzling Gleam, and Earthquake. Why I clicked Dragon Pulse? I couldn't tell you. We get off the Earthquake and we bring them both down to respectively low HP. They lock into Draco Meteor. A gift. They gave me a gift. Unfortunately, like I said, I locked into Dragon Pulse. If I had locked into Dazzling Gleam, this would have been GG's and we would have been fine. We would have won the game. But it's okay. We live and we learn. It was a tough L to take, but like I said, we live and we learn. Next up, we have a matchup against a Miraidon team. It's very similar to the World Championship team. They just swapped Heartflame Ogerpon for Chi-Yu. Turn 1, we both have our Tailwind setters out on the field. I assumed they would just Tailwind and Heat Wave, so I wanted to mitigate the damage from Heat Wave, and so I set up the rain. And with my Iron Crown, I just went straight offensive and I Terra'd ground and I clicked Terra Blast into Chi-Yu. First turn they go for Light Screen. That's going to mitigate some of the damage that my Terra Blast is going to do to the Chi-Yu. And he survives with a slither of HP. Next thing I want to do is get rid of this Whimsicott in case it tries to do some Encore nonsense. So I go ahead and set up Tailwind, and surprisingly their Whimsicott is slower than my Tornadus, which it usually isn't because Whimsicott is naturally faster than Tornadus. But I'm happy about it. I get rid of the Whimsicott with Tachyon Cutter. And Heat Wave is doing nothing in the rain. And I think that's the second turn that it missed Tornadus. I swap into Miraidon because I know that even though it's in the rain, Surging Strikes will be resisted. We'd probably take half HP at this point if he went for Surging Strikes into the Miraidon. He goes for Aqua Jet into the Iron Crown. Makes sense, get rid of it. I can't attack that turn. At this point, I still have 2 turns left of Tailwind and I have to decide a move to lock into with Miraidon. I figured the best case scenario here would just be to lock into Dazzling Gleam. Even if their Miraidon was to Terra Fairy, Fairy doesn't resist Fairy, so it's still going to be a decent amount of damage. They choose to sacrifice their Chi-Yu and I'm down to my last turn of Tailwind. Again, I lock into 2 spread moves, Dazzling Gleam and Bleak Windstorm, and they in return, Terra Fairy their Miraidon. Aqua Jet did so much damage to the Tornadus, but we're able to KO their Urshifu. At this point, I feel okay because my Urshifu is Focus Sashed, but of course, as soon as Urshifu comes out, the rain stops. I have my fingers crossed that Surging Strikes is going to be enough at this range to take care of Miraidon. And thankfully, it was. This last game, I'm going up against a Calm Mind Terapagos. So turn 1, they lead with Grimmsnarl and Urshifu. I felt pretty safe just doubling into the Urshifu slot. This way, whether they set up a screen or not, I don't really lose anything by trying to attack this turn. Able to connect my Air Slash and Psychic Norse finishes off Urshifu. At this point, my priority is trying to wheedle down the Terapagos as much as possible, so that when I bring in my Urshifu and click Close Combat, it KOs right away. At this point, my priority is to break the Terra Shell and get the Terapagos to lower HP so that it's easier for my Urshifu to come in the later game to clean up. This turn, I spread the damage to each of the targets, so I hit into the Terapagos with Air Slash, and I doubled into the Rillaboom, which was once Grimmsnarl. Seeing that the Terapagos was leftovers, it healed right back up to its Terra Shell with the Grassy Terrain help too. At this point, they have Fake Out Pressure with their Rillaboom, protect my Iron Crown, and I attack with Tornadus as I'm Covert Cloak and I don't have to worry about Fake Outs. At this point, they're starting to set up their Terapagos by clicking Calm Mind. At this point, it would have been better for me to click Psychic Noise into the Terapagos so that we can prevent it from healing, but I chose to go with Tachyon Cutter because I had a higher chance to crit, and like I said, I'm trying to wheedle down the Terapagos' HP. Even though the Terapagos went for a second Calm Mind, I'm still not necessarily concerned because Urshifu is a physical attacker, and I know that when I click Close Combat is pretty much over for the Terapagos. This turn, I finally lock into Psychic Noise so that we can prevent that passive healing that Terapagos has been getting from the terrain and his leftovers. I would consider that I'm lucky that my Iron Crown survived on 8 HP after that Terra Starstorm that was boosted by 2 stages. But it was taken out by Spirit Break anyway. Now I'm down to my last 2 Pokemon and they are up 3. We all know that you cannot protect in front of Urshifu, so I chose to Terra Stellar my Urshifu and close combat the Terapagos. They parting shot my Urshifu, but I really do think that Terra Stellar in this instance was the game changer in getting the KO on the Terapagos. Though I'm sure it would have gotten it down to a good amount of HP that Dazzling Gleam probably could have picked it up. Actually, I take that back. Dazzling Gleam did absolutely nothing. So I think the stab boost from Terra Stellar on Urshifu was what I needed to take out the Terapagos. And now we're both down to our last 2 Pokemon. With my Focus Sash still intact, I didn't want to risk it getting broken, so I chose to protect with my Urshifu and attack with my Miraidon. In this turn, they went for Fake Out into the Urshifu. Dazzling Gleam does a good amount to the Grimmsnarl, and they chose to double the Urshifu, so they would have broken my Sash and KO'd me. Now it's safe for me to attack into the Grimmsnarl. I know that Urshifu is faster and he's going to move before it to get that KO. And once I'm able to KO the Grimmsnarl, it's GG's from here. I just love to see that the battle was cancelled. I hope that you all enjoyed this gameplay commentary video. As a new trainer, it can be difficult to build a competitive team from scratch. Understanding your personal playstyle can help you draw inspiration from other teams and adapt them to make it your own. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more VGC content. And I will see you all in my next one.